Okay, Sooner Nation. So Oklahoma now has two of their big-time offensive tackle prospects off the board. So there's really now two left available that Oklahoma can pursue that are uncommitted. I mean, they can continue to pursue guys that are committed. And I want to talk about the trenches today because that's where a lot of the Sooner fans' focuses have been. I've seen you guys in the comments. Some of you guys are talking about Todd Bates sucking. Somebody said something about Bill Beatonbow sucking because we lost Lamont Rogers. So I'm here to maybe give you guys a little bit more hope about some upcoming commitments that Oklahoma could see swing in their favor. And then also what we could see down the road towards the end of this cycle as well. Before we do it, though, as always, I need to hear from y'all. So join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Hey, if you guys haven't, make sure you guys hit that like and hit the subscribe button. We're constantly talking Oklahoma football recruiting. And then when softball and baseball season comes up, we'll talk about those sports respectively as well. Shout out to John Carrington, who I believe is the father of James Carrington, who's been showing up in the videos. And then also Reggie Powers Sr. He always is here as well. Sometimes he comments, sometimes he doesn't. But shout out to those two as well. Hopefully Oklahoma can land James Carrington, the 2026 defensive tackle prospect. Elite dude. But we'll talk about him at a later date. Right now, we got to focus on Michael Vusi. This is where we're going to start the video today, and I'm going to start it with a big hitter because this has been the prospect that I think we have talked about on this channel the most for Oklahoma in this cycle. Now, for those of you who live under a rock, or maybe you've just been paying attention to other news in the world because there's been a lot of other news, really big news in the world, you might have missed this. Michael Vusi announced his commitment date August 21st, and it's going to be, I presumptively think it's down between these five. He didn't technically officially announce top five, but these are the schools that he listed there. So you've got Texas, Oregon, A&M, Oklahoma, and Mizzou, or as some Oklahoma fans like to call them, Mizzou. And before we jump into where I think Michael Vusi is going to land and my prediction status there, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of the history here. He's been to Oklahoma like 8 or 9 times, and he took an official visit on June 14th. He went to visit Texas on June 21st. He's been there like 6 or 7 times. He took his official visit to A&M on June 6th. He took his official visit to Missouri on May 31st. That was only his second visit. And then he's been to Oregon twice as well, and he went there on June 18th. So he's had a busy end of May, complete month of June. Took a bunch of visits, and if you're an Oklahoma fan, this is the guy you want because he is the most ready to start in your offensive line as a true freshman. And in my opinion, I think Michael Vusi, if he was to enter, like if he had the ability to enter the NFL draft tomorrow, he could potentially be a late first round, early second round kid. That's what Oklahoma's going after. And so when you hear the rumors about NIL, you have to understand that people are paying for a guy that is pretty college ready. Now, it's always not a guarantee that he's going to show up, be healthy, right? Things always happen. But Michael Vusi is an elite prospect. And this is a guy that Bill Beatonbow and this staff identified early, and they've really put in a lot of work there. We've had him on the podcast twice. The second interview might have been a little bit more telling than the first. But one of the things I always like to point out, Michael Vusi talks about the development around Bill Beatonbow, the big contracts that they get in the NFL. And he talks about Texas. He talks more about Sark than Kyle Flood. Kyle Flood being the offensive line coach out there. So if you ask me today, put a gun to my head and ask me, well, where do you think Michael Vusi ends up? I'm sticking with my Oklahoma prediction that I put in back in November. Now, my confidence level here is probably a little higher than most. I'm thinking it's about a 75 to 80% chance in Oklahoma swing. And the reason why I say that is the next prospect I want to talk about in Andrew Babalola, I don't think is as high in terms of Oklahoma's probability to land him. And so this might be Oklahoma's last remaining uncommitted big-time offensive line target. And Oklahoma doesn't want to strike out here. You want to be able to add him to an elite offensive line class already. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, August 21st, which we were telling you, the commitment's coming in August. This is big time. I think this one swings in your favor, and it does a lot for you in terms of your class ranking. But also looking at the other prospect that Oklahoma's looking at, one that I think, listen, your chances are slimmer, but I I think they're still there, and that's Andrew Babalola. Now, academic reasons is the reason why you see the predictions in favor of Stanford, but I actually think Michigan is a silent killer in this recruitment. Michigan does really, really well with what he's wanting to do in college. Andrew Babalola, though, he's not as talented as Michael Fasusi, but he is right there. I mean, he is close. And actually, I think he's rated a little bit higher than Michael Fasusi in the rankings. Now, I do think it's unlikely Oklahoma lands both of these kids, and I would actually put Andrew Babalola at probably like a 35% chance for Oklahoma. Still pretty good, considering there's only 2 other schools, but Stanford and Michigan, they have Oklahoma's number here. And so I look at it and say, well, if you don't land Andrew Babalola, is Oklahoma done? I don't think so. Although Lamont Rogers committed to the University of Missouri, I think Oklahoma, depending on what their NIL situation looks like for this class, I think could swing back around to Lamont Rogers towards the end of the season, especially if Missouri didn't have a good year, which they have no reason to not have a good year with their easy schedule. But if Oklahoma has a really good year, Missouri doesn't, I think they could swing back around to Lamont Rogers and say, hey, you want to come play with Sean Hutton and Michael Fasusi? Listen, we can give you what you want. Come play at Oklahoma, and maybe you have a late signing day flip. Not saying it's going to happen, but that possibility is always out there. Now, shifting focus away from the offensive line, going to the other side of the ball on the defensive side. You really only got one guy on your board for interior, and that's Floyd Bard. And we've talked about it many times. Just like Michael Fasusi, I think Floyd Bard is a guy that can walk on campus for you and day one play really good rotational snaps. This is a guy that can make an impact in his true freshman year. 6'2 and a half, so maybe 6'3", 315 pounds. I think some sites have him at 325. Floyd Bard is an absolute man. And props over to Unfair Sports, Sooner or Later podcast, Jay and Coop. They recently had Floyd Bard on the podcast, and things sounded really positively towards Oklahoma. I'm still a little hesitant here. USC, they are doing a phenomenal job with recruiting defensive linemen, even if they've had a couple decommitments. Flynn over there, he's really good at selling the vision and the idea of what USC football should look like here in the next couple of years. And I'm not saying they're going to land Floyd Bard, but I think they have a pretty good job or a pretty good idea to swing for the fences here. You've also got to watch out for Alabama. I'm not as sold on the Miami hype that everybody else is trying to sell. I get it. He's at Miami Central right now, but he's not from Miami Central, right? He's not from that area. He's actually from Canada. He's been around the ballpark a few times. So Floyd Bard, he's going to end up picking the school that I think he feels that can develop him the best, go to the NFL. Obviously, I think, obviously NIL is going to play a factor there, but facilities and things like that will probably play into a factor. I would give Oklahoma a 55% chance to land Bard. You probably put them in the lead, but the lead is very narrow, and I think somebody else can come in and steal it. July 20th can't get here fast enough, and there is a lot of time in between now and then for somebody to come in and try to flip Bard from Oklahoma silently. Now, looking at the class, you still got Cade Petchak and Christian Jones you're still waiting on as well. If you land both Michael Fasusi and Floyd Bard with Christian Jones and Petchak, that gives you a 272.31 composite score, which I've said, that probably puts you right at number 5, giving Brent Venables and Oklahoma another top 5 class. And if you're an Oklahoma fan, you should feel really good about that. And I still think there's a good chance Oklahoma walks out of the 2025 cycle with 0 3 stars in this class. They could have all 4-star prospects committed on scholarship, which, that would do a massive hit for your blue chip ratio. Oklahoma might have one of the best ones at that point. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're feeling really good about this. You're feeling really good about your chances for several commitments upcoming. At this point, it's just kind of like a wait and see type of deal. So if you guys have made it this far and you guys have not already, make sure you guys hit that like and you hit that subscribe button. And as always, join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts.